G'day guys, this video is going to document my overnight bush experience. So this month in the Warrior Tribe we had the monthly challenge of doing 2+ nights in the wilderness to train our skills. Unfortunately at the minute I'm really busy with a baby coming any week. I've got a lot going on, so I could only get away for the one night instead. So I thought, well, I really want to up the challenge from there then. So I gave the tribe two options to pick from for my gear, one of which is what they went with and I'm going to show you here in a minute, and the other was just to bring my EDC kit, which is a pretty intense kit but it doesn't really have shelter options, so that was sort of going to be the challenge in it. But anyway, we've gone with the gear here, which I'm going to run through in a minute. And then even from there I thought, well, it's still only one night, I'm only out for the one day. I could go out with next to nothing, survive the night and come home the next day. And so I really wanted to come up with some objectives of what I had to achieve while I was out there to make this a little bit harder and to sort of simulate a real survival situation. So again, I went back to the tribe and I said, right, pick some options of what I have to achieve while I'm out there. And so they voted for some things, and what they came up with are the three following. First one is I'm only eating on that full day what I forage for. So the day I'm going out, I've got a bit of food here, but the full day I'm only eating what I forage for. And then the second one was to cover 20+ kilometers. So obviously along with foraging, that's gonna be quite a challenge because I would expect to be low on energy and I've still got to cover those Ks. And then the third one is to make a primitive weapon. I'm sort of making it more of a hunting tool in my mind than a self-defense weapon. So really my challenges are all around food procurement, which I think is a pretty realistic challenge for what you'd be doing in a survival situation. So let's jump in, we'll have a look at the gear here. First off is my sleeping bag, so that's obviously going to keep you warm at night. This is the Passport Palm from Roman. It's a -5 rating sleeping bag. I do have a warmer one, but I decided to go with the smaller, lesser one, add to the challenge. Then my shelter itself is going to be the Snug Pack all-weather tarp. Now this does have some cordage and the tent pegs in it, but I'm only going to use them for the shelter, not for anything else throughout the challenge. So that's obviously my sleep shelter kit. Then I've just got my belt knife, which is a custom knife from Tacknell Knives. Nice decent sized knife, and that's really my one tool for the trip. Then I've got my head torch, which is the Black Diamond Storm. Nice head torch. It's a bit of a comfort item because I'm not going to have a fire where I am, I'm not allowed to. So that's my only source of light. And it's also going to help with my luxury item, which is a fantasy novel I'm currently reading. Trying to read a book a month this year and I'm just slightly behind, so I'm hoping to get some pages through in the evening and catch back up there. Then we got food and water. So food for that first day, I've got some trail mix. It's dried banana, jerky, cashews, almonds, pine nuts and some fried crickets. So it's a pretty high protein mix and I've got a fair bit of it there. As I say though, I'm foraging for my food on the second day, so this is only for the first day, and although I'm not heading out till after work in the evening, I've decided this is all I'm going to eat for the day leading up to heading out. So it's pretty high in protein, it's a fair bit of food, but it is cold, dry food, so it's not very exciting, and that's all I've got to fuel up leading into my day of only foraging. So that's going to be interesting. I often or usually would bring more food than I can eat when I go out in the bush. I'm a pretty big eater. I normally come back home with food, I bring that much. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for me, is doing things on less food. And then I've got water, just bringing 3 litres with me. Again, I'd probably normally drink more out in the bush, but it's more than enough that I can comfortably survive, so I don't have to worry about water at all. Then we got first aid. This is my first aid kit that I bring out with me. I'm not going to go through all of it, but basically it is only for if I actually need it in a first aid situation, in which case I will be telling you what's happened and what I use in it, but I'm not going to be using it, for example, to assist with my shelter or anything. It's simply there for if I actually need it in an emergency. Then I've got my camera gear. I've just got a bit of an action camera. I'm filming this on right now, and I'll also have my phone just as a backup to film, and again also for an emergency. And lastly is my clothing. So I've got my beanie. It's just a pure cotton beanie, so it's nothing super warm, but it's going to make a huge difference, particularly going to bed, having something on my head. Then I've just got quick dry trousers and top on. This one zips off to short sleeve, so yeah, just the quick dry clothes. And then the fleece wind and water resistant jacket from Kathmandu, which is relatively warm, but yeah, it's obviously not a huge jacket either. And then the last item, which I ummed and ahed about not bringing, is a pair of gloves. I decided I'd rather have it than not, but I'm going to try not to wear them, and I'll let you know if I do. I have a feeling when I go to bed, I'm just going to want them on my hands, keeping that a little bit warmer, but we'll see how I go. And all of that is going to be going into my apparatus, the 3-day pack from 3V Gear. Quite a nice pack, and yeah, more than big enough for this bit of gear. Alright guys, so that's my objectives and what I'm going to take. Next time I see you, I'll be heading out into the bush and we'll be getting this challenge happening. I'll see you then. Alright guys, I've only been out here about half an hour or so, and I've already had my first technical difficulty, and that is that I forgot to wipe the memory card. Saved everything I already had on there to the computer last night, but I forgot to actually wipe it. So I started filming myself setting up the shelter here when I got here, and I've nearly finished, and I've looked over and the camera has turned off because the card was full. So I've just wiped it all and I'm starting to record again. I'm not going to reset the shelter though, but you'll get the general idea of it anyway. Alrighty guys, that's us for tonight. Pretty simple little setup. Yeah, I'll be with you shortly. Alright guys, so I've just been cutting these native grasses. They're nice and dry and soft to go under my bed here. Just cut them where they're growing nearby and carried them up in my jumper, and they're just going to soften the bed out. So I particularly want them up at the head end, a bit of a pillow, and also I find I get lots of pressure on my hip, so I'm going to extra pad it out down under the hip. So it's going to make it softer, but it's also just going to insulate the bed that bit, and yeah, hopefully keep me a little bit warmer. So I'm going to cut another probably 2 jumpers worth of these, and then that should be my bed set. So I've just finished setting up camp guys, just got a little bit of daylight left, so I just want to get my daily Warrior Tribe challenge. So that's another part of the Tribe challenge calendar, where every day you've got to do the same challenge for a month. It's quite often a physical exercise, but not always. This month however, it's doing this workout routine for 5 minutes. So I've been getting it done just shy of 3 times in 5 minutes. So today, instead of trying to time it, I'm just going to go through it 3 times, and that should be about 5 minutes. So we'll start with some burpees. All done guys, a little bit harder doing some of that on the uneven ground, but that's my daily done. Back to camp. Alright, so camp set, sun's about to go down. Just thought I'd sit and have a bit of dinner. So if you remember from the last video, this bag had quite a bit in it today, and that's all I've been eating all day. I had a fair bit at breakfast and a good amount more at lunch, and then I've been saving this for now, and then I'll just save a little bit for just before sleep. I've particularly tried to save most of the jerky for this evening as my bit of a treat. So I have a bit of the jerky and nuts now, and then just save that last bit of jerky for before bed, just to fuel me up, to keep me warm for the night. I may do an update in the dark a bit later, I don't know. You probably won't see much, you might be able to rig it up with the head torch so you can see me, but I don't know, if there's something worth updating I guess. And otherwise, I guess I'll see you guys bright and early in the morning. G'day guys, 8:30 PM, I've just finished up the last of my food and I've decided I'm going to get a bit of sleep now. It's not nearly as cold as I expected, I've only just put the beanie on, ready to go to sleep. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't get too cold overnight, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Morning guys, I've well and truly survived the night. It was a lot more comfortable than I expected actually. I didn't get overly cold at all when I first was going to sleep at 9 after reading my book for a good while. I actually took my jumper off and used it as a pillow because I was just so toasty in the sleeping bag. And then when I woke up at 2, I was a bit cold, not unbearably but a bit cold, so I decided to put the jumper back on just to warm me up to help me get back to sleep. And then I was fine until 4, so another 2 hours sleep, and I woke up again. Got up and had a leak then, which obviously I lost all my heat, but I think it was the coldest of the night at 4. A bit of a fog had rolled in, not heavy, but a bit. The tarp was a bit moist, and yeah, so there was no wind at all, which obviously makes a big difference to sleep, and we had no rain, which was what was forecast, so that was good. I did slightly change the shelter a bit overnight, in that you may have noticed the front of the tarp came right out to this point, and I just decided that was a waste of tarp up there, so I just pulled it up and tied it to the ridge line along here, which wasn't very neat and even, but it did the job of keeping me that bit more covered and warm. And because it was only sort of hooked on the line, it did, when I got up at 2, come loose, and the difference without it was amazing. Just the cool air managing to get in. So particularly if the wind had picked up, it would have been a very beneficial. Sorry. So now the plan for the rest of the day is simply to walk around and look for food basically, because I've got to cover those 20 Ks and I can only eat what I find. I am feeling relatively hungry. Normally I have an eggs and bacon breakfast practically every day, so it's going to be a big change just to be eating what I find. And I think being hungry is going to be the theme of the day, because I'm actually not really expecting to find a lot of food today. Being autumn, in the spring there's quite a number of things I know I can eat, and there's going to be some things that I'm going to show you today that would be edible at different times of the year, but there's not a lot that I know of this time of year. So I am expecting to go pretty hungry. I'm expecting it to be a learning curve on being outside, being hungry, and maybe a bit of a wake-up call for myself to learn a bit more about some wild edibles. So yeah, I'm going to break camp and then we'll get to it. Another quick note I just wanted to make about my sleeping arrangement was, it's amazing, and I do this more often than I'd like to admit,
of thinking, oh yeah, that's a real nice flat area, I can sleep there. You lie down, it feels flat, feels pretty comfortable, but then when you actually go to lie down for the night, you realise you're on a bit of a slope. And that happened here. I sort of knew it was a bit of a slope, but yeah, you don't realise how big it is until you go to sleep there. And so what I should have done is, when I laid all these grasses down last night, I should have really built this side up a bit more to level it back out. But I think I was actually trying to push it all, make sure it was up the back where I was going to actually sleep, that I probably made the slope even worse in raising that backside up more. So yeah, that was something I learned there. This certainly, I think, made a difference, having this padding underneath. They obviously moved around quite a bit and flattened out throughout the night, but it certainly made it more comfortable to start off with and gave me that bit of a pillow up the front here. Also, what did I want to mention? That, yeah, the slope, particularly with the tarp underneath me and my sleeping bag on top, those two materials slide on each other very easily. It probably wouldn't have been as big a deal if I'd actually just slept straight on the ground on my sleeping bag. So I think what I learnt last night was I wanted that tarp under me, I wanted a ground sheet, and in actual fact I probably would have been better off just completely A-framing the tarp and sleeping straight onto this. I think that could have been a better option, since I ended up pulling up that front side of the tarp over me anyway. It was basically a terrible A-frame, so I probably would have been better off just A-frame from the start and just not having a ground sheet. Because it was dry, I didn't really need a ground sheet, but I guess it's one of those things I'm used to doing for when it is wet. So yeah, lesson learned, but there we go. Alright guys, it's time for a bit of breakfast. What we have here is what is commonly known as cutting grass, for the simple fact that it easily cuts you and gives you a nasty paper cut like cut, but it does have some edible elements to it. It's the wrong time of the year for the seeds, but it does have seeds which grow on stems like this. And yeah, so all these are empty seed pods. They've already been eaten by something or sent to the wind, so they're out of season. But I have been told you can crush them down and make a flour. Obviously when I'm only out for the one day, that'd probably be far too much effort and work, but I am interested in doing that next time they're in season and giving that a go. But that's not all they have to offer, so being careful that you get a good grip so you're not cutting yourself. You can pull these out from the base and you'll see they've got that white bit at the bottom, which is what you can chew on. Now, very little flavour, and in fact that wasn't a very good one. And not a lot per stem obviously, but it's something to start the day. And the other good thing is they hold moisture, so I've obviously got water today, but if you don't have water, these are also a source of hydration. And it tastes kind of like raw asparagus. So there's not a lot of flavour, or maybe even overcooked asparagus you could say, but it's got the crunch to it. But the flavour's like if you've cooked most of the flavour out of asparagus, which I love asparagus, so it's all good for me. Obviously it's a fair bit of work for what you're getting, but it's right here next to camp. It's something I know I can eat, so yeah, I'm probably going to sit here, chew on a few more, and then get started for the day. See you along the track. I'm just bringing you guys back on camera there because I found these ones, which obviously the other ones I was pulling up were much older shoots. You can tell these have a lot more white to them, and they've got a lot more juiciness to them. They're not nearly as tough and fibrous as the other ones, so yeah, much better feed there. and I'm just going to keep pulling these up as I see them walking throughout the day. It's probably going to be my main source of food, going to be very fibrous, and we'll see what else we can find. So there's one food resource out here which I know I'm not taking advantage of, and that is fungi. We've got one right here. And the reason I'm not taking advantage of them is I just don't know them, and as most people know, it can be a real dangerous game messing with fungi. This one being bright orange, I'm guessing probably isn't good. Often colour is a indicator of these things. So I'm leaving all the fungi alone today. I just don't know them and I'm not taking the risk, but I am going to be taking a photo of all of them, and at the end of this little segment I'll probably throw them up quickly and you can have a look at the different fungi I've seen. I've already seen 3 since coming out, and yeah, I'll have a crack at getting someone to identify them so I can learn, but also it would be great to find someone to actually come out with me and show me, because even if something's identified as edible, there could be something really similar that's not. And so yeah, before I really start eating fungi, I really want to be sure of it. It's not something I want to take risks with, so I'll throw them up and you can see, but that's something I want to learn for the future. Have a look at this, guys. I've struck gold out here, found myself a water source. So obviously today I don't really need water. I've brought my 3 litres with me, which, quickly speaking of, yesterday I drank my full litre bottle. So I've got 2 litres for today. I've tipped this full into here just because that's easy to get to, and I'll leave that in my pack. So I know when that runs out, I've only got a small amount left. But I'm doing alright for water. It's not going to be too hot. I'm not worried about that today. But if I was out here for a longer term survival situation, in a real survival situation, I would be stoked to find this water source. It's obviously very murky, not clean water. You'd want to be boiling it or using your Sawyer Mini, which I haven't brought with me today because that wasn't part of my kit. But yeah, you'd want to be doing something with it. It's pretty murky water, but it's a great water source. It's just come to the end of summer here, we're coming into autumn, and there's still quite a bit of water in here for the time of year. So I would say there'd be some water in there all year, or at least nearly all year. And you can see by looking at the line at the back there, in the winter that's going to come up quite a lot higher. But on top of being able to get your water, there's also the whole way around just countless numbers of tracks from wallabies and other animals. So you know that this is where your food source is going to be going as well. So I'd be setting traps around this area. I'd be coming here with my rifle or makeshift weapon depending on the situation, because I know that the game's coming here for a drink. It's practically the only water source around here. This is dry eucalyptus forest. There's not really water out here. That's why this is such a gold mine, and the animals know it. They're going to be coming here. I wouldn't be surprised if lots of birds are going to be coming here as well. And the trees around, you can just set traps for all sorts of wildlife because you know they're all coming here for a drink. So yeah, gold mine here. I'm pretty stoked to have found it. This is sort of my local area. I've never come to this exact spot. I've never found water in this area. So I'm stoked to know I can mark this on my map as a little resource.
Alright guys, here we've got kangaroo apples, which would be a great thing to eat in another few months when they're ripe. Currently we've got these little green fruits and you can see there's some purple flowers on there, but these are apparently poisonous before they're ripe, so they don't eat them until they're fallen on the ground. And apparently they used to collect them up and bury them in sand mounds too to bring on the ripening. But obviously we don't have time for that today, so I'm going to have to let this food source go. I don't want to get myself poisoned, but there's a good heap of them here. There's really lots of them, and so I'll be keeping this spot in mind, and I'll come back when they're in season and we'll do a bit of a tasting video then. But for now, I'm still going hungry, guys. Eucalyptus, guys, gum leaves. I'm here to tell you right now, this is not your long-term survival food. Gum leaves have obviously eucalyptus in them, which is a toxin, and they have very little nutrition value and are very fibrous and therefore hard to digest. And this is exactly why koalas sleep 18 to 22 hours a day, because their food's just so hard to digest and it's got so little nutrition value. And so yeah, I don't recommend this, especially in the large quantities you'd have to eat to get a feed. The toxins in it are going to start giving you a bit of grief. That being said, I think in a bug out situation or long-term wilderness survival, as a replacement for toothpaste, chewing on a gum leaves is probably one of the best things you'll find out here. And especially if you're in a group, people are going to appreciate you having a bit of fresher breath. So I don't mind gum leaves. I've been eating them since I was as young as I can remember, really. But you know, one or two at a time. You're not having a whole meal of them. And jury might still be out on this, but I don't think it's had any permanent effect on me. So yeah, I'm just going to chew on one now. Bit of a fresh breath for the day, and we'll keep going. Alright guys, bracken fern. Another potentially edible food. Now I've read some sources that say that eating bracken fern is linked to cancer. Therefore I'm not going to be eating it. I have tried it once before, but yeah, unless I'm in a real survival situation, I'm not going to be taking that risk unless I really need to. But most sources say, whether they agree or disagree with it being linked to cancer, that you should cook it first as well. And particularly the new fawns, which again, it's the wrong time of year, but when they're still curled up, that's when you really want to be eating them. Or like I did with the cutting grass, pull them out by the roots and you got that bit of stem at the bottom that's a bit better to eat. And obviously the younger the better, or it starts getting real woody. So it is an option in a real survival situation, but I'm not going for it today. Much rather keep bracken fern for part of building my shelter. So I've just seen a butcher bird get a grub out from under the bark on this fallen tree here. So I thought I'd have a crack myself, and I've been peeling all the bark off, but I don't know, you must have got the only one, I think, because I can't find one here. Thought I might have got myself a bit of protein, but doesn't look like it, so we'll keep moving. And I could walk 500 miles, and I could walk 500 more. Doot doot doot. Just finished that bottle of water. Got under a litre left. I've only done just over 10k, so I'm really worried. I don't think I'm going to make that 20 mile mark, because I've only got under 3 hours to go before I've got to be back at the car park to get back to reality, I guess. So yeah, not sure if I'm going to make that 20 mark, but this last bit of water is going to last whatever I get done in that time. Alright guys, I've been turning over some rocks looking for some grubs to eat, but instead I found some ants and their larvae. So I guess this is what I'm going to have a go at. They're only tiny little sugar ants, so they should be right just to eat live, I guess. Let's have a look at it. I'm just going to start off with some of their tiny little eggs. So small that's probably not even going to focus on them.
Let's have a go. Right, they're so small I didn't even notice I was eating them. Lick my finger. Alright, we got a mixture of both ants and eggs there. I don't know, there's no real taste to them. But I guess we'll try a few more. They literally, all I can still taste is the cutting grass I was eating before in my mouth. Can't taste anything from them, but I guess it's a very small amount of protein. Alright guys, I found myself some wattle seeds. There's been dry pods everywhere, but all of them have been empty, and I finally found some that weren't, so we're going to have a little crack at a few of these. They're very hard. Not all that different from trying to chew up wood, really. A slightly nutty taste, but not much taste to it at all. Put the rest in, eh? Yeah, they don't taste bad, but they're bloody crunchy. I believe you can also grind them down and make flour out of it. Might try that one day. But don't think much of it, but something in the tummy, I guess. Alright, this time I've just got a tiny little bit of eucalyptus sap. It's just really gooey, like I thought, sticking to her teeth there, see? Tastes really strongly of eucalyptus. I was told it was edible, but I'm not a fan of that. It's making my whole mouth just feel dry. Maybe I should have avoided that one. Not the best, but now I know, I guess. Finally found a bit of protein that might be worth eating. It's a little grasshopper. It's not going to focus for us, is it? Hang on a sec, guys. No. Oh, you can hopefully tell that is a grasshopper there. Now, I've eaten crickets before, cooked, fried crickets, and I actually don't mind them at all, quite enjoy them. But I've never eaten an uncooked, freshly caught grasshopper. I'd actually thought about the fact that in the summer and spring there's heaps of these around and you'd be able to catch them really easily, but this is the only one I've seen all day, so I spent a minute, made sure I caught him, and I cut his head off and he still just kept kicking around for ages, so I actually put the knife into sort of the body a bit to stop it doing that, because I didn't want it kicking around too much in my mouth. But anyway, I'm starting to just talk about it, postponing. I'm having a drink. I'm not planning on really enjoying this, but let's see. Eating the grasshopper. Surprisingly not unpleasant. I don't know what to describe the flavour of. Obviously a lot of crunch, they got that exoskeleton. I was expecting a
a bit more juiciness out of the centre, but no. Yeah, grasshopper's not that bad. But you would need a lot of them if that's all you were going to survive on. Alright guys, here behind me we've got a she oak tree. There's not many in this area, but I just found this big one. And they have these seed pods, which look like this. And I just cut this one open to get the seeds out of. And to be honest, it's so juvenile, there was hardly any. But I ate the few little bits that were there, and it was just real starchy, kind of like potato. Something wrong with it, but yeah, not much quantity at all. And then there's these tiny, just forming ones, which I'm told you can eat as well. Basically just tastes like wood. Like chewing the end of your pencil at school. Yeah, I don't know what nutritional value that has, but it's edible. Just a quick update. Oh, got myself in the head. On the cutting grass, guys. So I've realised throughout the day that rather than just pulling one at a time like I showed this morning, pulling a bunch like this means you have this big thick edible bit, and it's just as easy to pull a bunch as it is one. And I think a lot of what's in the very base here, the really good, quite tasty bit, you actually pulling individual gets left in the ground. So see that centre? Just a lot more bang for your buck there. So I've learnt something. Alright guys, here's my primitive weapon I've made. It's nothing too flash. You can see there, he's got the two main spikes, and these other sides started splitting on me, so I didn't put them down too far, but it's sort of a 4-prong mixed with a 2-prong, I guess you could say. And yeah, so it's probably not the best weapon. I haven't cleaned it up too much, I've still got bits here. My excuse I'm using is I'm just running out of time. I haven't got near hitting the 20k mark for the challenge, and yeah, I'm running out of time. So I've just whipped this up, but I also will admit that I don't have a lot of experience with primitive weapons, spears or anything otherwise. And originally what I did want to do was just a 1-point spear with some barbs going back in the wood, and I realised I don't really know how to do that properly. So that's something I'll be teaching myself after today, going forward. But rather than just having a sharpened stick, I thought I'd go with this option. Obviously, being two thinner pieces, they're more likely to go in, and the smaller bit on each side I've sort of sharpened real fine. It'll probably snap off on impact, and then the thicker pieces are there as well. But what I've been thinking is my accuracy with this, I'm probably going to do just as well with a nice tennis ball size rock. The wallabies here, as you'll see in the footage I'm going to play after this, I can get pretty close to them without them spooking, and I reckon I'd have better aim with a rock trying to get them in the head than I would trying to use a spear, because I just don't have any experience with a spear. So what I've been thinking as I'm walking along is what I would probably do, and I'm obviously not trying to kill a wallaby today, but what I would do in a survival situation if this is what I had, is I would try to get close enough to throw the rock and hit it in the head, and it's probably not going to kill it. Neither of these are probably just going to kill it instantly, but a knock to the head is hopefully going to knock it out or knock it down, rough it up, and I'll be close enough that I've only got a real short spear throw to get it from there, or if it's rocked enough I can literally get close enough just to stake it and finish it off. So yeah, that's basically my line of thought of how I'd use these two tools. Hopefully in a real situation I would have a bow, or preferably a rifle, and I wouldn't have to worry about this. But obviously we're training for the what ifs, so I'm just going to throw this spear. It's probably going to be a one use fella and it's going to snap, but let's have a look.
well, I don't know whether that's going to have killed something. I think I would have been better off with that rock. Wasn't overly accurate either. Anyway guys, that's my video on my primitive weapon, so tick that one off the list and I'll keep going. Okay, so surprisingly, that actually hasn't broken in that throw, even though it did go point down. It's maybe split a little bit further, but I guess we'll have another quick throw. I think that was getting better already. So we've lost one barb off there, but it's still a multi-pronged tool. So I've sort of been lobbing up and letting it come down, but in reality, as soon as I'm doing that movement, a wallaby's going to be running. So I probably really want more of a straight shot straight at it, rather than lobbing up. Something a bit more like that, I guess. Who knows?
Alright guys, I'm back home. In fact, the overnight trip I did was about a week ago now. I've just finished wrapping up the editing of all the video and realised I needed a bit of a conclusion, and I'm going to try to keep this pretty quick because it has become a long video and mostly a video about me eating random things in the bush, which wasn't initially really the intention, so I'm sorry about that. But with the challenge that I had, it sort of was the primary objective I had during the day. And yeah, what I sort of have realised, or I knew already or believed already, but this sort of proved it to me, that at some times of the year in my local environment you just aren't going to be able to forage for enough food. And I believe that the Aborigines also at some times of the year, and perhaps most of the year, the hunting and seafood was really the majority of their diet, and the other things sort of supplemented it. So yeah, it just shows that being able to hunt and fish are going to be a huge priority for me to learn the skills for when I'm out, as well as having these supplements to go with it. And the other thing I just want to mention is I didn't quite make the 20k mark that I planned for. I did 18 point something, I think. I was ridiculously close to getting it, but I just ran out of time. I had things to do in the evening that day, so I couldn't stay out any longer. So it wasn't that I hadn't eaten enough to have the energy to finish it by any means. If I just had a little bit more time, I could have finished that last 2 miles or so. But yeah, I just had to get going. I didn't quite get there, and part of that also was that I went down into a gully during my walk, off track into a thick bit of bush, and that really slowed me down for maybe 2 hours or so while I was in that thick bit. And yeah, if I hadn't gone down there, if I'd stayed sort of in the more open tracks where I was hitting a good pace, I probably would have made it. But anyway, I was still really close to the 20k mark, and yeah, so I really enjoyed the overnight experience. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I'll catch you in the next video.